Welcome back. Today we're going to mostly fix a few errors, and I'm also going to show you how to use this new OWSDontRepToOwner actor. So we're looking at the OWS changelog here, and this 8.8 version here, this one worked pretty well, but these last two ones here caused some problems with the loading screens. So we need to grab this new 9.13 that fixes these errors related to the new loading screens. Many of you, if you updated to this 9.4 or 9.5, you probably ran into some issues. The login, OWS login controller blueprint wouldn't open. So we're going to grab this new 9.13, and you can download it right here, 9.13. I've downloaded it. Zip file's right here, so we're going to update it like we always do. Come into plugins, dump the plugin, back to the zip file, right click on OWS plugins, copy, back to the plugins folder, and paste. This is how we always update the plugin. So this one's going to get rid of those errors. It's a little bit more elegant the way that it handles the loading screen. And so it's not gonna cause any blueprint errors. If you already tried to do something to fix that last one, well then you may run into trouble, but if you left it as is, you should be good. Okay, let's open the project. So one of the things, that we're gonna look at here is I created this OWS DontRepToOwner. And if you remember when we were creating our light grenade projectile, we had a replicated, let's go take a look at it here. So under light grenade, we have a replicated projectile and a non-replicated projectile. And the non-replicated one just spawns on our client. It's something that we get to look at that spawns right away so that we get around the lag issue. It doesn't actually do anything. It's just kind of a stand-in. The actual one is the replicated one that we then, once we send the command to the server replicates it and the server spawns it and then replicates it back to all the clients. However, in this case, we don't want to end up with duplicates, so we really didn't want the projectile to replicate back to the owning client. We just wanted it to replicate to other people's clients so that they would see it. However, in Blueprint, there's no way to do that. And so I said, well, we're gonna use a hack here. And so let me show you what this hack was. So this hack was, hey, on begin play, when you spawn it, come in here and get the owner and then check, is it locally controlled? And then if it's true, we just hit it, right? So we're just like, okay, well, replicate it back to the owning client, but as soon as you get it, hide it, so that we don't have duplicates, because we've already spawned our non-replicated one. And, it worked, but it's not a good method. It's mostly just wasting. Replicated spawns are expensive. We want to try not to do that because we need every bit of performance we can get. So what we're going to do here is the parent class is an actor, and the actor just by default spawns to everybody. But what I've done is we can go into reparent blueprint, OWS DontRepToOwner actor, and this is just an actor I made. It doesn't have anything else in it. It's basically just this normal actor with some code in the isNetRelevant4. And this is what gets used to decide where it's going to get spawned on clients after it spawns on the server. And it just has some code that says, hey, if you're the owner of this, don't replicate back. And that's it. And so it basically just checks on the server and goes, hey, that player controller is the owner of this projectile, so don't replicate it back to them. And so we're going to pick that one. You can see here the parent class is OWS DontRepToOwner actor. And we can come in here and look at the class defaults. Okay, this is a problem here. So because this blueprint already existed, it had a bad setting here. So come in here and undo this net use owner relevancy, and I'll tell you about this a little bit. Let's talk about some of these ones here. So only relevant to owner basically means that it's not relevant to anybody else. This overrides is net relevant for. So if that's checked, it's not even going to call the new function I made. Always relevant, it's not going to call it either because it just says, hey, it's always relevant to everybody. We are replicating the movement as a projectile, and we are replicating, if this isn't set here, if this replicates isn't set, spawning it on the client isn't going to spawn it on anybody else's, or spawning it on the server isn't going to spawn it on anybody else's client. This net load on client has to do with being placed in the world on map load, whether it spawns to everybody. And this was the one here that was problematic. Make sure you uncheck that. I've set the defaults. The other thing that's set in this don't rep to owner actor is I changed the default settings to work specifically for this kind of projectile. So I've gone in and set those bools in the constructor of this OWS don't rep owner to actor. But if you have this net used owner relevancy, what this does is says, don't call the isNet relevant for of the projectile actor. Instead, go call the isNet relevant for of the owning of the owner, right? So basically, it just calls their isNet relevant for instead of the actor's isNet relevant for. Well, in this case, I put the code in the isNet relevant for of the actor. Therefore, you got to make sure that that it calls the one on the actor, not the one on the owner. Okay, so one way that we can prove that this works is that where it would normally have hidden, we can put a print string, and we can put this. And now if you did this before we change this, this should not get called. Okay? So if we go back and change this to an actor and we do this, this is going to get printed. It's going to print this on our owning client, right? But now that we've changed to this and we've set up our class defaults here correctly, we shouldn't get them. So let's go back over here. Let's clear the log. Okay, and I think it's the E key. Yep. So we don't get it. We could actually, for fun here, just to prove it, we'll actually come back in here. You got to be careful sometimes. Reparenting can completely destroy your blueprint if you reparent it the wrong way. They got the warning telling you here. In my case, I know what's going on here, so I know it's not going to be an issue. And so now when we come back here, we should see that this should not be called. See down here? See, it says light grenade, replicated projectile, client 1, this should not get called in the log, right? So that was where it was normally hiding it. And if we look closely there, you'd actually see there's duplicates, especially if we turned on the net packet lag, which I always recommend using for testing multiplayer content. Okay, so now we're going to go back and repair. And I just wanted to show you what it would do so you can understand it a little bit better. So this don't rep to owner, we're going to set it back. Make sure it didn't change any of those. It won't. Now there's something else here I wanted to do. So you see there's all this stuff in begin play, and I really like to just get rid of it all, but you see there's this set collision enabled stuff. And so I want to come in here, and you see it says no collision. I actually want to set this to query only. So I'm on the sphere, and I'm going to change this to query only. Now by doing that, I no longer need this one that's setting it to query only, and this one is setting it to query only. And obviously I don't need this print string, so I don't need any of this. So we can significantly clean that up. Nothing on the begin play. And we'll go back and make sure everything works. There we go. Cool. Okay. There's some other stuff here too I noticed while I was looking through this here that I didn't like. So let me just come back here and take a look. So I'm in the light grenade ability, and I was going through here and see what I wasn't happy about. So here's where it sets the owner. That's the reason that we were able to figure out what was owned. Yeah, so I don't like these wait gameplay events. I was spamming it a lot of times in another test project, and I noticed that sometimes I got it to throw a weird warning. And the reason why was that these gameplay events are getting spawned by they're getting called by a volume overlapping. Well, those things are notorious for firing multiple times. So I really want to make sure that this only trigger once is set on both of these, because that'll make sure that they can't get re-triggered again. It's just a latch. I'm not sure why we didn't do that to begin with, probably because we just took the defaults, but you're going to want to check those. And then let's go down here. Okay, this one's already fixed. This is good. So in my test project, it was like this. I don't know why, but it was doing it in a loop body, and I was like, well, that's not good. But it looks probably going to have to override my test project with this one, get it back in sync. It's got a few minor differences because I don't always do on the video exactly what I did in advance. So I probably should, but sometimes I think of something while I'm doing it. So that was actually good. I was going to have us fix that one as well, but that's actually not an issue. And that was causing some oddities too by being called in this loop body, because basically it was ending before the second person took damage. So okay, I think we've cleaned that up. Let's see. So now we're on the new system for the loading screen. We don't have it enabled. I'll show you what I changed. OWS login player controller. This was the one that was causing issues. Yeah. So here was the issue right here. This was casting to third-person game instance inside the plugin, and then calling this hide loading screen. Well, obviously you didn't have the hide loading screen because it was new in your third-person game instance. But I shouldn't have been casting from inside the plugin to something that's inside your blueprints. So what I did instead is I put this hide loading screen inside the game instance, and then what you can do is you can basically go inside your third-person game instance, right? And you can basically pick that up and handle it. So we'll take a look at that in a future video. The main thing I was trying to fix there was, you may have noticed back in the zones video that when we switched zones, the loading screen went away a little too fast, and you actually saw it building the character. And that's going to be important in our next video, because the next video that I do is going to be on character selection and classes. And so what we're actually going to do is we're going to go into our character here, where we have Seraph as our mesh. We're actually going to delete her, right? We're going to set the NMP to none, and we're going to set the scalable mesh to none. So it's going to load with no character, and then it's going to look at what's incoming from the database, see the class type, and we're going to choose between different skins in Seraph. We could choose between different characters. Who knows? Maybe we'll even make it so you can play Rampage. I did that when I was playing around with it earlier. It worked great. So we'll be doing that in the next one, and so because of that, I wanted to have it so that the loading dialog, what happened is that the loading dialog was being done in the player controller. And here's the problem. Every time that you switch from one zone to another, it deletes all your characters, deletes all your player controls, deletes all your player states, basically deletes just about everything that's running. And so if you're using those to show some UMG widget, as soon as it goes and deletes it, it disappears. And so what we had to do is we had to basically move the loading dialog into the game instance, because the game instance is the only thing that persists across two different zones. All the rest of the objects are getting destroyed and recreated. And so what would happen is you would see it initializing the character. It didn't look good. You definitely wouldn't want it in a production game. Well, now it's going to be even more of an issue, because we're actually going to start with no character, and then after we load in, it's going to go, okay, we need to load this Seraph skin or this Seraph skin, or we need to load Rampage, or we need to load whatever other Paragon characters you want to throw in, you could throw them all in. It's actually easier now because Epic's added NMPPs for them, so you could add all the Paragon characters to your project if you wanted. Although it would get pretty big. we already have a pretty large project size. And so what would have happened is that you would see all that stuff loading in, and it would look good. So with this new loading system, it got moved to the game instance, and it'll make sure that it holds the loading screen in front of the player until everything is finished loading. And then basically when it's all done initializing and all done loading, we can make a call that says, okay, let's not show that anymore. So okay, we're going to take a look at that and classes in the next video. But I just wanted to get that login issue fixed. I know a lot of people messaged me and said, hey, I'm getting a blueprint error. So I want to get that fixed, and I figured while I'm at it, I'd show you guys how to do don't replicate to owner the right way with C++. So until next time.